on No Horsing Around family. Zach Boyd back at it again with your training camp preview. As you know, in Westfield tomorrow, they're all going to be there reporting to training camp. Thought no better person to bring on than Bob Kravitz, a longtime writer of the Colts, Pacers, Purdue. You can find him just about anywhere. And we're excited today, Bob, to introduce your Substack that you've got going on. Some really cool articles. I read the Jonathan Taylor. If you want to read the article about his feelings on The Athletic, that's also there, as well as his Anthony Richardson stuff that just currently came up. Bob, how you been, man? And let us know a little bit about that Substack and this new venture that you got going on.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have any bosses anymore. I'm the boss.
Yeah.
And I kind of like that. I feel liberated from The Athletic. Hopefully we can make a run at this, and because I got to pay the mortgage. And yeah, you can find me at bobkravitz.substack.com. I am thrilled to be doing this. I've only written, I think, 3 stories so far, and the freedom that I feel like I can go back to being the columnist that I once was. And I felt like some of that kind of got taken away a little bit at The Athletic. I never quite knew what I was supposed to be doing. So I hope people will support this venture and support me.
Absolutely, man. Guys, if you want to see where it's at, we're going to have the link in the video after this is recorded, as well as watch that ticker. Just go ahead and type that in. Go ahead and sign up just like we have here on the No Horsing Around podcast. Pretty cool stuff. Bob, we'll just start right here, kind of lead off onto one of the articles that you had. Jonathan Taylor, this contract negotiation, just the state of the NFL and the running back position in general. It's not fair. It doesn't feel right, but that's business as it is in current NFL, and so be it, right, Bob?
Absolutely. And I've criticized the Colts and Chris Ballard in the past for being too sentimental, for sticking with Adam Vinatieri for way too long, for bringing T.Y. Hilton back after his expiration date. And I think they're playing hardball here because they can. And look, I root for every guy to make as much money as humanly possible. But I don't blame the Colts for taking a little bit of a hardline stance here. Does that mean he's not going to get his money the way Saquon Barkley did earlier today? I don't know. We talked with Ballard today. I did not get the sense that he is all hot and bothered about getting Jonathan Taylor signed to a long-term extension just yet. And that's just the way the game is played now with the franchise tag. And I think Jonathan Taylor is going to get the short end.
Yeah, I mean, Bob, you have to consider everything in this situation. You've got a really good talent. Do you even consider the possibility, and I know this is crazy, and every Colts fan who's listening to this is going to cringe, if he's not going to sign and you're not even close to a deal, I mean, you're talking you're light years apart, consider trading him and getting something back in return, kind of a la how the Panthers do? I know it's a slippery slope, but is it a consideration in your mind?
It is not for me because you can franchise tag him, and you can franchise tag him really for 2 years. Now will he be happy? No, he will not be happy. But that is an option that they have. It's an option that you saw with the Cowboys with Tony Pollard. So. I mean, the fact that Barkley got paid, maybe that helps open up the door for Jonathan Taylor. But I think they look at this and say, look, these guys don't last very long. It's not right. It's not fair. But you look at the number of running backs who've gotten long-term deals, long-term extensions, and by and large, like Todd Gurley, they end up getting whacked. They end up getting cut. And so I'm not sure it makes sense coming off an injury-plagued year. I'm not sure it makes sense to give him that extension just yet.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense to me to kind of pause. And I'm more of a try before you buy type of situation. He's coming off of an injury, new system, new quarterback.
Right.
It might be nice to see that first, right, before you're going to make that stance. And if anybody's going to maybe pay at positions that the rest of the league don't value, I think Chris Ballard would consider it. But in this situation, all the bargaining chips are with the Colts and Chris Ballard.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And if you think about the great year he had 2 years ago, how'd the Colts finish?
Yeah.
9-8. didn't make the playoffs. So, and then you look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Their leading running back was Isaiah Pacheco, and he had 830 yards. You don't need a stud running back to make it in today's NFL. It's just the way that it is. The game has changed. You got Bill Polian to thank for that to a great extent, because he complained about the clutching and grabbing, and so now it's a passing game more than it ever has been, and running backs have been diminished. They've been devalued.
100%. So I guess everybody kind of saw, Bob, that little 10, 15-second clip of Shaq Leonard working out. It was an encouraging thing. That being said, maybe I'm being pessimistic here, but I got to see the guy get on the field. I got to see him be on the field multiple days without any hiccups, without any delays. And he's got to be, not a shell of himself. He's got to be the maniac and not just a guy on the football field, yelling loud, screaming, throwing his hands in the air. He's got to be making plays. Where's your stance with Shaq Leonard, and just what is your gut feeling initially with this?
I think it's going to take some time. I really do. I mean, I'm really not going out on a limb here, but we talked with Chris Ballard a couple of hours ago, and he said he's ready for camp. He's going to be out there on Wednesday, and hopefully the rest of camp. But he's mostly going to he's not cleared for contact. He's mostly going to do individual drills. So at this point, you don't need to see him in the preseason. You just hope he can be cleared for contact 11 on 11 and get out there, maybe halfway, 3/4 of the way through the preseason. This is not a guy who needs to be out there and get a lot of camp time, a lot of practice time. So as long as he can get out there and be at full health, I see no reason why he can't go back to being the player that he once was.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the injury, I don't think Chris Ballard today in that presser that you alluded to didn't really put a timeline on it, which is smart, because you can't really put a timeline on it. You got to wait and see. Do you expect him to kind of make it through this initial? Do you expect him to not be put on, any type of I guess he can't be put on the PUP list now since he's went past that. So he'd have to start the season on IR, to begin the season. I don't expect that. Do you?
I don't. And, I saw the same thing you did, the Instagram he put out, and he looked good. He looked really good. And, like I say, they're going to get him out there in individual drills, and they want to get his legs back under him, get his fitness level up, and, and then kind of go from there. But I think they're going to take their time with him, and they should.
Yeah. I mean, 100%. Now, Bob, you've been a part of a lot of training camps. You've been down there. This is a new regime, a new team. What are your expectations with a Shane Steichen-led, team? I mean, are there any expectations? Or are you just kind of a wait and see approach? Seems to be a lot different than Frank Reich, but then again, you just don't know.
Well, I mean, as far as expectations for performance this year, I don't know if they're going to win a whole lot more games than they won last year. I really don't. I mean, you've got so many. It starts with the quarterback, and I like Gardner Minshew, but it starts with the quarterback. And if you don't have a stud, you're already in trouble. You're behind the 8 ball. And then, I worry about the cornerbacks, especially with Isaiah Rodgers not here. They got about 19 different tight ends. I don't know if any of them can play. The cornerback situation is very scary with, you got a bunch of rookies who are vying for spots, Juju Brents and folks like that. So I don't expect much. If they can win 6 or 7 games, that to me would be a great success. But ultimately what matters, and this is what I wrote in today's column, it's not, any kind of great insight. But the bottom line is getting Anthony Richardson onto the field at some point and helping him start to grow as the future quarterback for this team.
Yeah. Bob, you surprised that they didn't go out there and sign a depth piece on the offensive line? Last year you felt like he kind of penciled in the starters week 1. Feels a little bit like he's done the same thing this year. Now, maybe a little bit further advanced with Ryman having a second season, Will Fries having a second season. So maybe not exactly the same scenario. But that being said, didn't really build that competition up and didn't really bring a vet to go in there and challenge those guys to win that job. Are you surprised by
Right.
that?
Yeah, a little bit, but they went out and drafted Blake Freeland, who they like. The Ballard today talked about, like, he felt that in the second half of the season the offensive line played significantly better football. So I think he's pretty good on the starting five. Um, as far as depth, though, I would agree with you that and we've played the song before
Yeah.
where Ballard has not gotten the team, the offensive line, the kind of depth that they desperately need. So I think that's another area where you go, what's this going to be? And quite frankly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I
It'll
mean,
be,
I think Tony Sperano is going to be an upgrade on whatever they had last year.
I mean, anybody would be an upgrade on whatever they
Yeah,
did
I mean, you
last
can
year,
put
right?
you and me in there and say, boys, block, and it's an upgrade.
Exactly, exactly. What's your stance on week one starter Anthony Richardson? Are you more of the cloth that just throw him out there week one,
No,
let him take his lumps, or you say, I think I kind of know this because I had a little bit of a sneak peek into your article before you came on, but I think you're a little bit more leaning towards when he's ready, play him, but do not rush the process because there's really no reason to rush the
there's no
process.
reason to rush the process. And, I've gotten to know Ryan Leaf very well over the last couple of years, and we've talked about this. And when you're a rookie quarterback, you're going to have a lot of growing pains. And the question is, are you ready to deal with failure? And you can't put a quarterback in a position where he's going to fail. And worse yet, where you're not sure how he's going to react to it. So to me, if it takes 5 games, 6 games, 10 games, it doesn't matter. You can't run the risk of him being lousy and it affecting him. You saw Zach Wilson many years ago. I think it was David Carr with the Houston Texans. Guys who just got their brains beat in early on, whether it was bad offensive line or just they weren't very good, like Zach Wilson, and it can really impact your confidence and your ability to move forward. So to me, if it takes 6 games, 10 games, so be it. Put him out there. Put him out there when he's good and ready.
Yeah, I mean, nothing can really stunt the growth of a young quarterback than him to go out there and just lose full confidence.
Absolutely.
Maybe even by as early as a third or fourth start. A guy just gets in his head and thinks, man, there's no way I could ever, figure this out. Might be a good wait and see approach. Before we hop off here, Bob, last question. Is there a position group, players that you might be looking for that you just got an eye pointed towards and say, hey, this is going to be interesting to follow and see how it develops as training camp goes along?
Well, I think the cornerback situation, because you got so many young guys. Kenny Moore. I thought Kenny Moore was great today. He was very aware of how poorly he handled last year and how poorly he played, and he's very honest about it, which I appreciated. But those other corners, they're so young, and we don't know what we got with those guys, and so that would be one position. Then I'm curious to see who emerges from the tight end room, which, like we said before, has about 19 guys,
Yeah.
and I don't know if any of them can play dead, but there's hope. Ogletree is coming back off the injury, so that's a good thing. So we'll see with that. But those are the two position groups that I'm most concerned/interested in.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that tight end position. Jelani Woods should be the guy that stands out, but you don't know. And I've kind of made a little bit of a hot take and said Mo Alley Cox. If we don't have a Mo Alley Cox sighting in training camp, it'd be easy to cut a guy like that, in my
Absolutely.
opinion. I mean, it saves you money, and you're just not getting the production on the $6 million per year.
Right.
He would be the one guy. If I'm coming to training camp, I would want to be ready from day one to compete and go out there and win that job.
Agree completely. Yeah, and I'm really curious to see Ogletree.
Yeah.
They have very high hopes for him. So one of you would think there's 19 guys in there. One of them is going to emerge, right? But
Yeah.
I agree with you. I think Jelani Woods is going to be the guy.
Absolutely. Well, guys, before we get off here, just want to take a quick second. thank Bob for hopping on here. And I can speak for myself and a lot of other content creators, Bob. Every single time that we press record on our podcast, just a little sliver of Bob Kravitz is inspiring that, man. I mean, we've been following you for a long time. Thankful for all that you've done, and really just excited and looking forward to your new adventure. So if you haven't already, join the No Horsing Around family. Join us. Like, rate, review, share, subscribe, and come and be a part of this thing that we're doing, as well as going over to bobkravitz.substack.com. Check out his new stuff. Just give it a try, man. It's really good stuff. It's honest. It's from a real good vantage point, and I think you guys will love it. So go out there and sign up. Until next time, as always, go Colts.